humility. Those are the macro. And then tactically, it's, you really got to understand how these things work and which platforms do what and what's happening in pop culture and how do you tie that into your business? Like, how does Taylor Swift's tour a year ago when it's on fire, how does that factor into your business, and can you speak to it or factor it in? So what's going on in pop culture and what's going on platforms? I call it PAC, platforms and culture. And who are you trying to target? Too many of you are trying to get to everyone. Like, if you know you're targeting 21 to 27-year-old male carpenters, go more narrow when you make your content there. But that also means you could be selling to 42 to 49-year-old moms in Seattle that drink high-end coffee and yoga. You can imagine those two groups need different content, but if you're selling coffee or a book, you want both of them to buy. Get it?
Hey Gary, what qualities do you look for in collaborators, whether they're on your team or potential clients?
Robert, I look for emotional intelligence. I look for kindness and warmth. I'm very hot on just like nice. And then you have to figure out if they're good. So I start with humanity. It's easier for me intuitively. Some people are not as good a judge of character, but it's easy for me to be like, oh, I like this person's warmth. Like, let's try it out. And then I try to over-articulate to a collaborator or an employee about like what I'm looking for. Like, hey, you're signing up for this. Here's what you're in for. So I over-communicate reality and then judging. So it's, ICJ, right? Intuition immediately on personality. Clarity on what they're getting into. So if they say yes or no, or if I see when I'm talking to them, they're hesitant, which may lead me to bail out. And then judgment. And like, it might be analyzing. Maybe we want to change it. I see, like, once they work with you, then you actually know. You don't know beforehand. Once they know, you're analyzing, and then you gotta, put deposits into that relationship and try to groom them. So that's how I see the framework.
Gary, thanks for everything that you do. My question is about authenticity in my content and using my credentials to my advantage, but not feeling like an egotistical jerk when I say things like, I've won 2 Emmy Awards in my career. Maybe it's just me, but I need a little bit of help with this.
First of all, that was really cool. Congrats, those Emmys are pretty gangster. Look, I think like when I'm introduced and you're like a 5-time, soon to be 6-time New York Times bestselling author, or he has this many followers, like, it is what it is. Like, look, I think this should land. Everybody here knows when someone's trying to brag versus when it's naturally in the conversation, right? Like, you live in Beverly Hills, I get it. But there's a way to tell me that you live in Beverly Hills that is far more authentic and organic. I believe that most humans don't realize that they're animals. We're animals. And we can smell things. And I just think we're all very good at smelling when someone's not being authentically, when people are actually bragging, right? And so, look, if I had 2 Emmys, you would know it. It'd probably be right? Like, it's okay. You should be proud of your accomplishments, but don't force it. That's all. Don't force it. And I think that's really worked for me. Like, I'm happy to talk about my stuff, and I'm happy not to talk about my stuff. There's plenty of times I'm on a podcast, they're like, plug your new book. And I'm like, eh. And other times where I'm like, the book. And like, if it doesn't feel natural to me, then I know it's not gonna feel natural to you. So there are natural times in your content and your conversation and the way that you roll that you can integrate those 2 incredible Emmys, and there's other times where you shouldn't because you're forcing it. And you're forcing it into a comment. Somebody was like, how's the weather? It's funny you say that. When I won my 2 Emmys, it rained. That's very different.